Hello and welcome to an episode that deals with different types of photography. The subject expert today is Kumar Barun and I am Shivangi Anand. To begin with, let us first specify the various types of photography, study and understand the meaning of various photography genres, photography is a vivid and dynamic art. The various genres of photography capture the mind and imagination of every human. Photography offers a great variety of aspects to be clicked which concern both human life and human fantasies. An attempt is made to unravel the science and art of an interesting profession like photography and elaborate on its various streams. Let us spell out the various genres of photography, which are photojournalism, documentary photography, action photography, fashion photography, street photography, art photography, underwater photography, portrait photography, wedding photography, travel photography, advertising photography, aerial photography, architectural photography, astrophotography, event photography, food photography, forensic photography, nature photography or wildlife photography, sports photography, micro photography, macro photography, product photography. Now, we shall elaborately discuss each of these in detail. Photojournalism is a mix of both photography and journalism together. Although amateurs may break into this field without formal training, photojournalism is often limited to professionals. One reason photojournalism is generally practiced by professionals is that serious photojournalists must be sure that their shots maintain the integrity of the original scene. Photojournalism requires the photographer to shoot only the facts. No alteration or embellishment of the photos is permitted. Photojournalism pictures are often powerful images that engage the viewers with the news story. Knowing how to take such shots to capture the original emotion is often learned only through years of practice and experience. Photojournalism somewhere connects to journalistic practices and therefore forms an integral form of print media on a day-to-day basis. Documentary photographs tell stories with images. The main difference between photojournalism and documentary photography is that documentary photography is meant to serve as a historical document of a political or social era, while photojournalism documents a particular scene or instance. A documentary photographer may shoot a series of images of the inner city, homeless, or chronicle the events of international combat. Any topic may be the subject of documentary photography. As with photojournalism, documentary photography seeks to show the truth without manipulating the image. Action refers to movement and motion, while professionals who take action shots may specialize in a variety of different subjects. Sports photography is one of the fastest and most exciting types of photography. As with any action shot, a good sports photographer has to know his or her subject well enough to anticipate when to take pictures. The same rule goes for photographers taking action shots of animals in natural surroundings. Or it could be of a plane taking off. Fashion is one of the integral ingredients of photography today. Fashion photography is sometimes also referred to as glamour photography. Fashion and glamour photography usually incorporates models and is a form of advertising photography. Fashion photography, like the work featured in, emphasizes clothes and other products. Glamour emphasizes the model and body form. Glamour photography is popular in advertising and men's magazines. A sub-photography genre of fashion is known as still life fashion photography. Still life fashion is a type of fashion photography devoted to the photographing of clothing without models. Still life fashion has become an important part of all fashion retailers, marketing and e-commerce strategies, with studios devoted to the production of this particular photography brand making up a considerable proportion of worldwide photography businesses. Street photography is a type of documentary photography that features subjects in candid situations within public places such as streets, parks, beaches, malls, political conventions and other settings. Street photography uses the techniques of straight photography in that it shows a pure vision of something, like holding up a mirror to society. Street photography often tends to be ironic and can be distant from its subject matter, and often concentrates on a single human moment, caught at a decisive or poignant moment. On the other hand, much street photography takes the opposite approach and provides a very literal and extremely personal rendering of the subject matter, giving the audience a more visceral experience of walks of life they might only be superficially familiar with. In the 20th century, street photographers have provided an exemplary and detailed record of street culture in Europe and North America, and elsewhere to a somewhat lesser extent. Any form of photography concerning painting, pictures or aesthetic artifacts is referred to as art photography. Artistic photography can embrace a wide variety of subjects, while a nature photographer may use underwater photography to create an art show based on sea life. A portrait photographer show may feature black and white artistic portraitures. In all cases, the photographs must have aesthetic value to be considered art. Shooting underwater is a breathless, enjoyable and innovative experience all at the same time. Underwater photography is usually employed by scuba divers or snorkelers. However, the cost of scuba diving coupled with often expensive and unwieldy underwater photography equipment, makes this one of the less common types of photography. Similarly, if an amateur has the equipment and the scuba know-how, taking shots underwater can be complicated as scuba goggles are magnified and distort the photographer's vision. Portraiture is one of the oldest types of photography. Whether the subject is your family or your pet, the goal of portraiture is to capture the personality of the subject or group of subjects on film. This is an intense form of photography which captures the subjects in their deepest and varied human emotions. Though one of the most common forms of photography, portrait photography has managed to capture the imagination of the photographers all over the world. One of the most known and popular forms of photography is wedding photography. Wedding photography is a blend of different types of photography. Although the wedding album is a documentary of the wedding day, wedding photos can be retouched and edited to produce a variety of effects. For example, a photographer may treat some of the pictures with sepia toning to give them a more classic, timeless look. In addition, a wedding photographer must have portrait photography skills. He may also have to employ glamour photography techniques to capture the bride and groom at their best. Traveling is a natural instinct of man, and photography while traveling helps one not just compile all the memories, rather it's all about capturing the various moments and putting them together for oneself or others to ponder. Travel photography may span several categories of photography, including advertising, documentary or vernacular photography that depicts a particularly local or historical flavor. A travel photographer can capture the feel of a location with both landscapes and portraiture. The backbone of advertising is photography. In fact, advertising and photography are highly interrelated and interdependent professions. Since photography plays a vital role in advertising, many professional photographers devote their careers to advertising photography. The need for unique and eye-catching advertising copy means the photographer may work with multiple types of photography, including macro photography and glamour photography. An aerial photographer specializes in taking photos from the air. Photos may be used for surveying or construction, to capture birds or weather on film, or for military purposes. Aerial photographers have used planes, ultralights, parachutes, balloons and remote control aircraft to take pictures from the air. Architectural photography is photographing of buildings and similar structures that are both aesthetically pleasing and accurate representations of their subjects. It is the art of making property appear attractive. Often involves panoramic photography. architectural photography is typically created from either the exterior views of buildings or in the interior of buildings. The techniques used in each of these types of photography are similar, but do have some difference and sometimes require different equipment. Exterior architectural photography usually takes advantage of available daylight, or if performed at night, uses ambient light from adjacent street lights, landscape lights, exterior building lights, moonlight, and even uses the twilight present in the sky in all but the darkest situations. In many cases, the landscaping surrounding a building is important to the overall composition of a photograph and even necessary to communicate the aesthetic harmony of a building and its environment. An architectural photographer will often include flowers, trees, fountains, or statues in the foreground of a composition, taking advantage of their ability to help lead the eye into the composition and to the building, which is its main subject. Interior architectural photography can also be performed with ambient light transmitted through windows and skylights, as well as interior lighting fixtures. Astrology is a science related to planets and has fascinated man since time immemorial. Astrophotography is a specialized type of photography that entails recording images of astronomical objects and large areas of the night sky. The first photograph of an astronomical object, the moon, was taken in 1840, but it was not until the late 19th century that advances in technology allowed for detailed stellar photography. Besides being able to record the details of extended objects such as the moon, sun, and planets, astrophotography has the ability to capture objects invisible to the human eye such as dim stars, nebulas, and galaxies. This is done by long time exposure. In professional astronomical research, photography revolutionized the field with long time exposures recording hundreds of thousands of new stars and nebulae that were invisible to the human eye, leading to specialized and ever larger optical telescopes that were essentially big cameras designed to collect light to be recorded on film. Direct astrophotography had an early role in sky surveys and star classification, but over time it has given way to more sophisticated equipment and techniques designed for specific fields of scientific research, with film and later astronomical CCD cameras becoming just one of many forms of sensor. Life is an event. Every day we have volumes of variety of activities taking place around us, which translate into some or the other event. Event photography refers to not only the black tie corporate events, wedding and promos. In fact, it also includes trade shows, sports tournaments, fundraisers, awards functions, fashion shows, melas, and so on, to name a few. Even birthday parties form a part of event photography. This is one of the fastest growing and known genres of all. Even photography is referred to as the most sought after photography, especially with events of the magnitude and popularity of page 3 parties. Food is a part of our day-to-day life, but nowadays depicting food in attractive manner for the consumer has led to a high demand of food photography. Food photography is a still life specialization of commercial photography aimed at producing attractive photographs of food for use in advertisements, packaging, menus, or cookbooks. Professional food photography is a collaborative effort usually involving an art director, a photographer, a food stylist, a prop stylist, and their assistants. Forensic photography, that is sometimes referred to as forensic imaging or crime scene photography, is the art of producing an accurate reproduction of a crime scene or an accident scene using photography for the benefit of a court or to aid in an investigation. It is part of the process of collecting evidence. It provides investigators with photos of victims, places, and items involved in the crime. Pictures of accidents show broken machinery or a car crash, and so on. Photography of this kind involves choosing correct lighting, accurate angling of lenses, and a collection of different viewpoints. Scales like items of length measurement or objects of known size are often used in the picture, so the dimensions of items are recorded on the image. Wildlife photography is regarded as one of the more challenging forms of photography. As well as needing sound technical skills such as being able to expose correctly, wildlife photographers generally need good field craft skills. For example, some animals are difficult to approach, and thus having knowledge of the animal's behavior is needed in order to be able to predict their actions. Photographing some species may require stalking skills or the need to be concealed while shooting. While wildlife photographs can be taken using basic equipment, successful photography of some types of wildlife requires specialist equipment such as macro lenses for insects, long focal length lenses for birds, and underwater cameras for marine life. However, since the advent of digital cameras, greater adventure travel, and automated cameras, a great wildlife photograph can also be the result of being in the right place at the right time. Sports photography refers to the genre of photography that covers all types of sports. In the majority of cases, professional sports photography is a branch of photojournalism, while amateur sports photography, such as photos of children playing association football, is a branch of vernacular photography. The main application of professional sports photography is for editorial purposes. Dedicated sports photographers usually work for newspapers, major wire agencies, or dedicated sports magazines. However, sports photography is also used for advertising purposes, both to build a brand and as well as to promote a sport in a way that cannot be accomplished by editorial means. Microphotography uses specialized cameras and microscopes to capture images of extremely small subjects. Most applications of microphotography are best suited for the scientific world. For example, Microphotography is used in disciplines as diverse as astronomy, biology, and medicine. Macrophotography describes the field of photography in which pictures are taken at close range. Once restricted to photographers with advanced and expensive equipment, macrophotography is now easier for amateurs to practice with digital cameras with macro settings. Macrophotography subjects may include insects, flowers, and the texture of a woven sweater or any object where close-up photography reveals interesting details. With the growing amount of commercialization and liberalization, product photography is becoming a latest fad. Most of the online magazines, online selling portals are using more and more product photography to sell their stuff. Primarily, product photography refers to clicking of pictures of new cars, watches, toys, and food items. These products are more or less commercially sold and are displayed for the masses in various media for buying and selling purposes. Jabong.com, Flipkart.com, fashionandyou.com are some of the examples of such form of photography. All sorts of photography offer great career options and provide us interesting and novel ways of looking at life. An innovative outlook and a fresh perspective is developed by practicing these various forms of photography. Though all genres of photography are equally important, yet practicing each one would be requiring different set of skills and providing the novice a diverse experience of the same. That is all what we have for you today. Thank you and goodbye.